Hey everybody, BTO Pro here from Penn State, Drupal community, and Elms LN project. I'm going to show you why I'm freaking out right now, and so is Michael Potter, hey MP, about this thing called Web Components. So we just made contributed module, envisioned, like, hey, let's make a prototype this weekend at Drupal Camp, New Jersey. And it went from like just a bunch of note cards that we were scribbling on furiously at 1:30 in the morning into a whole module that actually works. So first of all, you need to know what a web component is. Um, uh, the easiest way to visualize it is go to webcomponents.org, something that the Polymer project is really helping promote. But it's kind of a different way of looking at templating and design, right? So let's see, what's a good example? Like a calendar, right? So if I said, we've got to design a calendar for this client, there's one. And so, yeah, what I'm up to, right? So it did the what am I up to, and then you click to sign into Google, right? It's bridging all of that. And imagine if I could just take your calendar, or I could share my calendar, I could share a media widget, whatever the thing is, right? This is a place where you could do that. And it's kind of like, it's almost like containerizing your elements. So it uses Shadow DOM to make sure that they're rendered appropriately and that CSS and JavaScript are scoped appropriately. And so you can do nice little stuff like in this case, it's, hey, if you want a bar like that, here's what you copy and paste, and you're going to get a bar like that. So what are we rambling about? With web components, and why is this important, to Drupal and templating and kind of ending the hell that is endless TPL files, or should I use panels, or should I use context, or should all of that, right? So you need to check out Polymer. First of all, it's basically a lightweight wrapper on top of these web components. I even got this up and running pretty quickly. It has a CLI component, and so I created a new Polymer item, which you basically just follow the directions, and then it has this nice little viewer. So if you want to see my card that I made, right, this is a card from the Elms project. Collins hates it, but so this is what you get, right, when I say Polymer serve, right, and it gives me a little templated space that I can work in. So what I've got is a style guide page. Now I'm only doing it with one. Potter's looking into how we do this with lots of them very quickly. But so the important thing here is that I've got static files just dedicated to this process. So if I go into the Finder to see what that basically generated, I see there's Bower components, and I've got that elmsln cardstack.html. Now that is generated by the Polymer toolkit and the CLI. You can make these files manually, but who does stuff like that? So what that looks like is it's a big old definition of this is what this element is. All right, so I've got the template. It's telling your browser, hey, if you see something like elmsln-cardstack, then I need you to apply these styles to it. I need you to inject this HTML in its place, and then I need you to run this script through it. And the script allows for replacement of these yahoos here. So you can do, I can make these variables. So I could say color, right? And then if I define in my properties, color, and we do type string and value black, because that's what it was before. Now I've tokenized that. I've tokenized this template for the design of it, right? So let's see how do we go about getting this into Drupal, right? So if you have the Web Components module, there's a Web Components Polymer submodule to it, and basically all it does is say, well, if in your theme there's a folder called Polymer, then it's going to read through that whenever your theme rebuilds. And so if I look at our theme, I've already kind of skipped ahead a little bit on this, but the other assets are on the system already. I didn't want to have to push up all the Bower components for it. But I take that thing that was generated, right? I'm working in this little Polymer area. I'm a designer. I have no concept of a CMS. This is critical. You don't need to understand content management systems at all. This is why this is going to obliterate older methods of doing this. I'm going to copy this over to here. So before I do that, we're going to look at this in detail a little bit. Let's see, I have a thing called an ElmsLN card. And a card has classes. A card has these variables: title, URL, URL name, description. To see how this plays in Drupal right now at this moment, you see I have a card here. Hey, that's neat. Well, what is rendering that card? Well, if I edit the body of this, that card is actually its own little custom HTML element here. So there is some WYSIWYG, CK editor, conflict where it's actually applying what the underlying HTML is. Don't worry, when you save it, it's perfectly fine. But so if I do description equals, this is what a Polymer item looks like, and then we say URL equals HTTPS Polymer project.org, and then I can look at my specification and I can see, oh, it's URL hyphen name. So then that means URL hyphen name is a property here, and the name of that is Polymer is amazing. Okay, so I've made my little card. Now I'm going to delete this. That doesn't actually influence it, but just so you'd see what you're gaining with Polymer and using templates as far as web components is concerned. I've reduced all that HTML styling JavaScript down to this. Right, so if I want to throw down another one, things, right? I edit these and it's by reference. This is what's another critical aspect to this. This is effectively by reference design. So what just happened is the Drupal Polymer module basically skims off the templates on the file system in your theme and makes Drupal aware of them. And so to see what that looks like, this is a database table. It actually makes them full-on entities. Oh, I guess I logged out of there. There we go, should be back in now. It makes a database table called Web Components. And Web Components, there we go, have basically, it's an entity. So it creates an entity type in Drupal called Web Component. And all the Web Component is doing is saying, hey, I found a web component at this location. It's called this. It's of type Polymer, so we know how to process it. And technically, I already put in support for doing other web components. I'm sure there's other formats that are going to emerge. But the machine names of these are ElmsLN card, ElmsLN header. Another critical piece of this is it engineers off of those files what those properties are that I stuffed down in the JavaScript. And so right now, we just put these into the HTML header. So it takes that, and then when the page builds with a Polymer page, or actually just web components in general, when the page builds, it goes, I need you to load all of the web component elements, and then I need you to reference them. And this is the way Polymer works, is it basically you import URLs from elsewhere. So if I clicked on one of these, I don't see anything, but in viewing source, right, it's that whole mess that I showed you before, right? It's kind of think of it as your definition of what that component is. So we're letting Drupal be aware that there are components to load. So when the page spins up, this is just unrendered basically. And then immediately it notices the imported component and it fills in the properties, right? So now I've basically made a really complex HTML element in a single line. The other aspect of this and there I have my template. So look at what that is, and we'll see, hey, I got a card, a whole bunch of content, got some things filled out. Now, if I go into my little Polymer card, let's say I want to change this fundamentally, which I just did a second ago. So I'm going to paste in what the new template is, overwriting this. Okay, paste it in. And the new template has different HTML, different CSS, and some different properties. I also, fixed that aspect of it, right? I copied that over. This is the card stack thing. I just took this out. So the card stack I was showing earlier, copied over here, changed the name so it didn't say card stack, it said card. But if I had named that correctly, I wouldn't even have to do that. So I'm going to save this, and we're going to post it up there. And so this is my little card that I had. Now, you'll notice, we'll go and look at card, it looks like this, right? Well, it looked that way because the underlying template driving it said, hey, these are my different pieces of info. If I don't have those properties filled out, right, that's what your defaults are that you're defining. So if I refresh that now, I didn't change, I didn't hit save over here, right? So it took those pieces of information about what this was, ran it through the template, and represented it real time. So if I go back to here, and again, take that out of there for now, I don't have a property known as color. We'll get the word that, and we'll take out the icon, right? So you can see that aspect working. So stack of info. I got a title and a body. Save. It's going to say stack of info, and it's got this default icon. The default was driven by the fact that this says, hey, an icon, your value is directions walk. But let's say I goofed this up and click that file accidentally. But let's say I goofed this up, and that's not supposed to be green. It's supposed to be blue and white text, and circle's fine. But that whole process could happen in a vacuum of the CMS, right? Right now, you're going around updating TPL files, you're modifying things you've already made, you're going into body fields and searching for stuff. Whereas what we're about to move to is, I push this up, so it's instead of, let's say that was git, right, to do it the right way. And now everywhere that web component is utilized has been changed to reflect the new version. So you can see why we would be kind of freaking out right now. Let's say I added body, and then now we need this has never happened. I need a subtext as well, right? And then in here we do subtext, and we copy the rest of that, right? And that wouldn't be our subtext, right? In this case, let's say if there's no subtext, don't show anything at all, right? And then let's wrap this in a span, class equals sub, right? Just to do it quickly. All right, so I might style subtext in some capacity. Font size, we'll do 0.6 rem, and font style, we'll say italic, sure, whatever. Okay, so in this scenario, updated the template that's driving it, and we'll push it into version control here, quote unquote. Oh, I have a character missing. Okay. Upload to version control, that's dangerous. Fresh, see, it looks exactly the same. Go ahead, edit though, source, and that you see sub was injected in there. So if I say now, additional properties, sub, this is a subheading. It's not, but we'll say it is for that. That I should have my material reflected here. But I appear to not. Well, it's in there. I just don't have this line. So I must have something with this. You notice it does the scoping, the auto scoping with it is pretty awesome. So I can be having these battles about what the real problem is there. Instead of the span, we'll just put it on there so you can see that then update that, right? The template was wrong. And a whole bunch of content. Do you see the issue? Right? This property is named subtext, but in here I use sub. So go in and we change this from sub to subtext. And now it's got my subheading. And then I bet if I fix my thing from before, so that now my template reflects it, there's my subheading. The other aspect of this, right? Again, why is this so incredibly important. Now, for this purpose, I am copying it over. You wouldn't have to do this, obviously. But if I copied that, paste it in there, because I have these as two separate things, you can see the portability of this as well, right? I'm doing these things manually. We wouldn't do these manually. But now save. Well, actually, I don't even have to push that up. Just save. And then my little card stack documentation of how our front end process works and how you invoke this is reflecting it. So I've got my demo with my card stack. It's in the docs. This example you actually have to go about writing the thing for. So if I take that out, I believe it'll be reflected. I'm not entirely positive on that part of it. But oh, there's no default for it. So yeah, that's why you didn't see anything. There's no default there. Of course you wouldn't see anything. So I hope you get a sense of why we're pretty over the moon about what this is going to provide us. But our first step in my mind is we're going to kind of be able to hollow out our template files, right? So if I start throwing into TPLs and into, WYSIWYG template is what we use currently, but if what WYSIWYG template is stomping out is, this Elms body card lingo, in fact, let's copy that. Save, right? Just make sure it's what it is. And I go to WYSIWYG templates, and I believe I already have one, but just make sure it's updated because I did mess with it a bit. That's the header one. We have a web component for the card, right? So there is a submodule that puts this stuff in there too. It's still, this stuff's still super new. So let's save that and then save. So another gain of this would be we've got a nice list of things that our graphic designers can do, or sorry, people authoring content can do. And they would come down and say, give me a card. And clearly something's goofed up with WYSIWYG, but it's supposed to do that. There we go. So it would stomp in a card, and it would actually, imagine it drop that in. I don't know why I didn't do that. That's an issue with WYSIWYG template apparently, but you get the idea. So if you want to learn more or play around with what we're doing, it also supports subtheming. It's Webcomponents is the name of the module. We're plan on doing adding views support, on adding support for field templating would be nice. I don't really think you need to get into that. This is kind of defeating that in a way. But also it will eventually power our hacks system, in which you by design are just using the body field and you're targeting these elements, and then we'll know what the properties of them are and their data types, so we can present you a form so that you could edit the title of something and have it instantly reflected. So that we can do kind of that outside in design, except we know a lot more about what you're trying to do instead of just presenting you a WYSIWYG, because WYSIWYGs are terrible. So the WYSIWYG sauce are kind of that band-aid to get to this future where eventually you could just come to like the webcomponents.org site and construct your own. In fact, we use Material, and they have a whole series of elements called paper. This would have saved us a heck of a lot of effort in applying ripples to things, or to go and say, give me a badge or a card, right? I was engineering that card before. Once we figure out how to pull this in, then we've got all these different ways in which you can present a card with basically just a single line of HTML. It's pretty impressive. So, highly recommend it.